Picture a sweltering summer afternoon in the mid-19th century. A young girl sits by a riverbank, peering over her sister's shoulder at a textbook filled with dense text and absolutely no pictures. In the rigid, heavily structured reality of Victorian England, a child's education was a serious, dry affair. An Oxford mathematician named Charles Dodgson, better known as Lewis Carroll, saw how suffocating this environment could be for young minds. He began telling a story to entertain his young friends, weaving a narrative that pushed back against the stiff society they lived in. A white rabbit suddenly runs past the girl. A rabbit in a field is ordinary, but one that pulls a watch from a waistcoat pocket is a detail strange enough to pull Alice toward the edge of a burrow. Following that rabbit down a dark hole is an active choice. By abandoning the predictable surface world, our protagonist moves away from the tedious, sensible rules of her upbringing. While plummeting down what feels like an endless well, Alice tries to anchor herself using her real-world education. She guesses at her latitude and longitude, clinging to grand-sounding vocabulary to make sense of the fall. But down here, geography and mathematics offer no protection. She lands in a long, low hall lined with locked doors. Through a tiny passage, she spots a beautiful garden, but there is a harsh physical reality blocking her way. She is too large to fit her head, let alone her shoulders, through the frame. Her only options are a bottle marked "Drink Me" and a cake reading "Eat Me." Consuming them causes her to violently shrink to 10 inches, then shoot up like a telescope. These are arbitrary external forces acting upon her body without warning. Before she even meets a single inhabitant of Wonderland, she loses her primary anchor to reality. Stripped of her physical permanence, her identity fractures, leaving her vulnerable to a world that refuses to follow instructions. The constant, drastic shifting in scale takes a psychological toll. After growing so massive that she frightens herself, she weeps a literal pool of tears, confessing she can no longer remember if she is the same person who woke up that morning. Then she meets the caterpillar. Sitting atop a mushroom, he peers through the smoke of his hookah and bluntly demands to know, "Who are you?" Alice cannot answer. She tries to explain that changing size so many times in a day is confusing, but he dismisses her. His aggressive interrogation taps into the disorienting experience of trying to define yourself when your body and mind are in constant flux. Looking for a way forward, she asks the Cheshire Cat which path she should take. He points out that if she doesn't know where she wants to go, it really doesn't matter which way she walks. Spatial logic collapses when you lack a defined goal. These interactions mirror the experience of growing up. The sudden, awkward shifts in height, the adults posing unanswerable questions, and the absence of a clear path forward reflect the physical and mental transformations of childhood. Further down the path, she sits at a table where it is always 6 o'clock. The Mad Hatter and the March Hare are trapped in an endless tea party, speaking in circular riddles and correcting her grammar until the conversation grinds to a halt. Time and language themselves stop working. The chaos peaks when she meets the Queen of Hearts. This ruling monarch spends her days playing a manic game of croquet with live flamingos for mallets, and ordering immediate decapitations for the slightest offenses. The Queen acts as a biting satire of authority figures who demand blind obedience and enforce strict punishment, entirely unbothered by whether their demands make any logical sense. By presenting a kingdom run on pure, unhinged nonsense, the narrative exposes the illogical and often unfair rules that children are forced to accept every day in the real world. Eventually, this arbitrary authority holds a trial. The Knave of Hearts is accused of stealing tarts, and the proceedings are a mockery of justice, with the king debating if the evidence is important or unimportant. In the chaos, Alice begins to grow back to her full size. Intimidated by her presence, the king hastily invents a new rule on the spot, declaring that all persons more than a mile high must leave. For the first time, Alice refuses to play along. Recognizing the fragility of the figures, she shouts that they are nothing but a pack of cards. They rise up, swarming around her in a flurry. In this moment, the power dynamic shifts. Alice realizes that the creatures terrifying her have no real substance. She is no longer a passive participant in the nightmare. She is the one setting the boundaries. With a start, she wakes up, brushing dead leaves off her face. The intense magic of the subterranean court immediately fades back into the calm, golden afternoon on the riverbank. Alice runs off to tea, leaving her older sister sitting alone. As she watches the sunset, the sister realizes how the mundane sounds around them, the rustling wind, the tinkling sheep bells, authored every bizarre creature in Alice's dream. In the book's final lines, Carroll pleads for Alice to take this childish tale and lay it where childhood dreams are twined, like pilgrims' withered wreath of flowers plucked in a far-off land. The novel endures as a physical reminder to hold on to the wild imagination of youth, preserving that curiosity long after the rigid, logical rules of adulthood take hold.